I thought I would read to start with 3 more recent poems since the Cromine book, and then I'll read all from the Cromine book. These 3 poems are all recently published or going to be published. And the first one is one that Phil actually put on the invitation. And a lot of the stuff I write is sort of about nature and our current situation on the cusp of lots of stuff. This is called Maybe Only Trees. Maybe only trees will be left with their merciless companion, fire, and the lapping seas warmed to intercede, insects, earthworms, algae. Morning fog still draped on coastal hills, no sound of traffic on the crumbled highways, no nightly grid and chain of lights to blot midnight's mist of light, far jubilation of the stars. Ice fingering its way to water, and the great globe spinning. The next one, thank you. The next one is called, for instance, The Layer of Heat. She believed in explanations. Much later, she told herself the unexpected was every day. For instance, the gliding motion of love becomes a grinding, shears something off. For instance, the layer of heat below the steady seeming ground surges up sudden, fires flesh, bucking red past Earth's backbone, causing new islands, archipelagos, green and windy, rock-ridden, and love's geology. Flames travel hardens into nows, shine, and rough. For instance, sometimes she counts it simple, warmth, welcome when the night is cold or morning stillness chills. She tells herself the story of what was, with the jacket of later laid on, an iridescence friable as a dragonfly's wing. Time and weather carved the landscape. What rises next? I say, the future's imperative, a braille of solids melting. Who can explain the everyday? Forgive flame, forgive what hardens, clasp it, still she hopes. And this last one is called The Secret Will Tell You. It's going to come out in Spillway. The secret will tell you, part of what you see isn't there. The mind's loom murmurs, lights. Is it like a brook or that ballad that tells the recipe in quatrains? Yesterday's cake with the message baked in, the secret will tell you how the glass mountain turned to iron, what made the kettle a frying pan. Still, we can make a story out of 3 grains of sand and a head of lettuce. The lion tracked him all the way down the trail. He backed and waved sticks and shouted, and then, sphinx or rogue, it entered his dreams, clawed as certain memories, a prowling silence, the future's muscle, dapple or dark of the inside forest, where still the garden's wild, its mountain fragrance, its sheared air, its travel into ever, has a secret telling you what for. Thank you all. And so now I'm going to read from Crow Mind. And just as a little introduction, this book was written very quickly one summer when I was feeding a pair of crows that every day in my backyard, and I started to watch them carefully, and they developed a relationship with me and I with them. And I have actually read about corvids for years, but this also triggered a real level of interest in them. And the poems themselves flew in a lot like a tribe of flight-wise birds. The first poem is called Sharp. Sharp, of beak and plumage, wing points prod air, tripartite claws swing a dinosaur swagger, Blues Brothers' shoulders wit as wide as wild. Crows all point and luster. This is not tuxedo or morning garb, nor a dancer's thin whiplash darkness, more black cat ink and strut. He knows who goes there, what's what. You probably know that birds are descended from dinosaurs, which makes me wonder if maybe dinosaurs weren't a little smarter than we seem to think they were. They did, after all, live 400 million years, and we might not make it that long. The next one is called His Dark Mistress. She's sleek as tempered steel, black as any midnight thought, empress of the south, or ninja, gleams deep shine, a dark more definite than light's absence. Shoulders, not as broad as his, defers, it seems, to his rough speech, but I imagine her alternate path through day's branched gold and green of observation, arrow of her own. Her unique call he learns and yearns for when uncalled for silence erupts in Cawdor Castle. With it, he names her, calls her. Where's wide call, wide? At the water, she takes second sips. He bounces over her short umbrella hop, waits, watches surrounding air, trees, any flick shadow of interlope arrival as she drinks. When a crow the flock knows dies, they gather, they make noise, cacophony. One in captivity fell silent 4 days when his mate died. The next one is called Luster. Crow shines as the darkest star. Light burrows into the coal of him, blacks down to diamond, bounces off his sharp facets into midnight's noon. It is his cloak and dagger. He wears it on his shoulders the way Mercury wore flight and cunning, armor, trumpet, name of what black is underneath the sun. Luster's reason is without preamble. The first cause is always light. It's a little hard to check in, you know, you want to see people's, but it's all going well. It's all fine. This is called His Philosophy. Yesterday, I lost a poem about Crow, the second one I wrote, Gone for Good. Losing, finding, management and miss, order, chaos, regret, revenge and unsubstantiation of materia, evanescence, memories, many treacheries, not to mention language. Well, we'll stay away from Wittgenstein, whom I am not competent to parse. Hume's more like it when it comes to Crow. Sensation, idea, a clear line between what comes to beak and what arrives in head. This poem I lost, sometimes it's backs of envelopes, scraps of post-it, bits of paper, scribbles on the moment's walls, chit bits stuck in paper haystacks, and desk-tied scruffle. Easy to lose track, let them lie, go away, forget, or poke them, half-plucked, into unfiled piles, neglected as an unfinished outbuilding, blurring under rain. Visitors come, they go, dinner gets cooked, newspapers fold their old news into the trash, scraps go up in every smoke the day exhales. Combustion and evaporation's the way of things. Crow knows this when he looks at water shrunk to slime. It was such a good one, of course. Crow, if he misses that delectable mouse, bounces up and caws, a loud complaint, challenge to the morning's misrule, call to mates for sympathy. But then, like all natural athletes and realists, like Hume, or Summer, or politicians, he moves on. Regrets fill no bellies, blue sky calls. Let's see, okay. So birds have more rods and cones in their eyes than we do. They see more colors. All birds apparently, and so Crow is seeing differently than I am and you are. Crow sees blue. It took us eons to name blue. Homer called them wine-dark seas, dark red, or crimson deep. Birds see more spectra than we do. They have more cones. As painters, they would be wilder than Monet. So Crow, what he loves, what she sees, must be shelter of many fluttered greens, tranced wing nesting flights of blue, black and silver, and mouse gray beyond our dusk and shadows, with sharpened azure and all its brother-sister colors belonging to, and yes, possessing him too. Crows are very playful, and they engage in games. You can even get a crow to engage in a game with you if you're patient and clever enough. I mean, I think that the game the crows like best to play with me is for me to bring out the breakfast. So they've got me trained, I'll tell you. This is called I read, he plays. While Crow, or some relative, slides down windshields and roofs and hills in the snow, or bites some unsuspecting dog's tail in the park, or chases cats around a courtyard and waddles off, all a cackle, I watch him online, researching the habits of his kind. The way he figures me out is just what I did when I was small. He watches. Crows look, notice pattern, think. Today is, tomorrow will be, and then Crow tests it. I know this because Crow's out there watching me watching. When I was young, I slid down snowbanks too. Slippery's its own reward. Crow knows we're dangerous, and not sometimes. He recognizes faces, counts enemy and friend. If Crow were larger than me, I'd watch him like that too. This is called Mr. Crow Imitates a Cat I Had. I'm out watering plants. He ambles along the fence, angles sidewise, glint of eye and expectation. So, his glance says, so. I speak that much Crow. He enlarges. Priorities slipped your mind? Can you count to 6? Breakfast is number 1. My morning necessities, please. Now would be the time to fill that water basin. I know you can use that snaky tool water thing to more purpose. Hop 2. Okay. One of the things that kept coming to mind when I was writing this is the way we are alike, these smart animals that fill all niches, that are social and made for life and ruthless and murderous when they need or feel they want to be or feel they need to be. So this poem is one of the poems that alludes to that. The difference between us. Though there's an historic drought in California where we live, Crow and I was unable to resist the little pepper plant, the Japanese eggplant, so elegant, edible, and comic all at once, those purple grotto noses. A squash plant that will splash everywhere, and just a few others, not to mention all the flowers, nodding, gorgeous heads I've already planted in my garden, though no one had the milkweed I'd set out to buy to feed the monarch butterflies, who can barely find their archipelago of food now in the orange muscle of their migration south along the de-weeded, insect-toxic cornfields. Crow notices the wild onion has been mowed down. He switches to mice, spiders, purloined bread, the odd blown-by-night hamburger wrapper. I'll water sparingly. I save runoff from the shower. Resource, survival, think outside the box, greed, for dinner, for color, for bounce and flurry, the everness of spring. We both do what we want, but I, with my hope, and so-called moral sense do it anyway. Are we doing okay here, Phil? Okay. This one is called Crawdaddy Crow. Where I grew up in the East. Crayfish were called crawdaddies. And they have a sidewise way of moving, you know, in the creek when you see them. So, Crawdaddy Crow. Crawdaddy Crow sidles sidewise down fence, watching squirrel pump his loud tail. Nuts are the subject and object. Noise, chit-chit and caw, the notice of what will out. Crawdaddy keeps his cool, flaunts his black epaulets, lets wind carry its feather news his way. The strategy's the double deal behind bark's blank. When Crow was knighted, he did not bow. He noticed that the sword, descending, truncated grandfather tree. He's good at side effects. He kept his eye on where the nuts fell, watched the telltale flag of squirrel's tail. When he croaked nevermore, this was taken at face value, though Sir Crawdaddy Crow knows nothing happens in heaven or earth that will happen nevermore. So this one is called She Bathes. I was intrigued by trying to figure out the difference between the male and female crow. They both feed the young, like they're probably third generation down now, 4 crows coming to my backyard, and 2 of them are young, and they're not quite full size, but they still spend a lot of time opening their mouths and cawing at their parents to stuff whatever food there is into their mouths, although they're perfectly capable of getting it themselves. So this is about the female crow. She bathes. They both fly in, drink, flex, peck, jump up on the rock, jockey. She elbows him a bit, keeps jumping down into water, and after the usual while, he flies off. She stays. Gingerly, she steps into the small waters, stands ankle deep, sits, fluffs her feathers, steps out, steps in, glances here, glitters there. Plumply, she settles down, flings water drops off wingtip, shimmies, turns. To me, she seems languorous, taking it long and slow, eros in an interval away from all clutter of nest, food, caw, him. Meticulous beak trims and tidies. She preens, wing feathers, plucks and presses. You might say primp. You might say pleasure. You might say self. Oh, wait, I didn't finish this. He flies back and forth transversely a few times, calls. Other crows watch from branches. Maybe they're guarding, maybe they follow tribal rules. But she's alone, here in her bath, in her own crow mind. And what she thinks, whether flight or nest or itch, is hers alone. I have, let's see, 3 more. Sound good? Okay. This one is called How Crow Became Legion. How Crow Became Legions, a saga of many stanzas with long slogs between boughs of the slow millennia and sky to tell it to. His tribe likes congregation, finds ways to gather plain-wise and catch as catch canny, sweeps a wide soar from belt to forest, down to meadow and up to sky, gypsy bursts of clatterblack, minor thieveries, and rumors of war till the river's owned. Behind the garbage dump will do just fine, string and bottles, just 2 of what is underfoot. 4 and 20 will burst out of any pie. He calls it Saga of the Noonday Raven, blackest epic of them all. His eyes worldwide, his heart's as red and pulsing with all the hearts 4 and 20 chariots of desire as yours and mine. Come, brother, come, sister, he says. I will show you how to grow and grow. The next one is called Last Year's Sorrow. Was it theirs? Last year I found a crow baby, dessicated, half buried in grass, hard by the back garden gate, head thrown impossibly back, wings hardly pinioned. Was it theirs? Crows mate for life, and crow babies grow up slow. For 3 or 4 years, they teenage between Zoom and Fortune, play fake doom and boom before they settle down to all that family labor. This year, did they send their babies successful into sky? An ancestor of mine, Zilpa Hall, married at 24 in 1804, bore 9 children: Ardelia, Lydia, Alonzo, Ruth, Abigail, Sarah, Rowena, Mary, Fanny. She was always pregnant, bearing, suckling. Alonzo, the boy, died at just over 1 year. I know this, though not how Zilpa wept, binding up her sorrow in silence, bent over the washtub, tears dripping into laundry. I know this because his sister Rowena made a sampler listing her family's names and their dates. At the bottom is a prayer for Alonzo. This is my prayer for the crow baby dead before he fledged, and for his siblings who fly now and argue and bathe and watch me for the hope I bring as water. This is the next to last poem. Almost all First Nations, many First Nations, let me put it that way, have, and Native Americans in particular, have myths and stories about crows and ravens, and this alludes to those. The Sun Burglar, the Brothers of Sleeplessness, Hook Houdini. Crow has always known how to tell a story, how to burgle Sky Chief, become his daughter's fussy child, fly like a plucked black hare through the smoke hole and seed the unlit sky with stars and moon, how to tell Odin what to think, Hugin, and what to remember, Munin, after the pair circle the whole world while the hammer thrower sleeps. First Nations know he can carve a canoe that will grow a foot to walk right out of drowning waters, survive the scheming uncle, talk dirty to Verdella's kicking foot, and clothed in his cloak of trickeries all the way through any history's epic, transform your car into a nutcracker. Researchers watch crows solve it, use rocks to weight a board till it slants to drop the needed stick, displace water in a beaker with 1 stone, 2, 3, till what he wants floats within reach, bend a hook, and using it with string, lift food out of a tube, or in the wild, dig a morsel out of a tree with a forked stick, poke it out of an anthill, or pretend to stash it while another bird watches, because thievery's eye comes easily to him. Shaman, trickster, quick study, Mr. Black-eyed sleek of smarts, still transforms the world we like to call our own. This is the last one, called Chronos. Chronos what? He shows a black box, fox-like glance to me, dives into sky, the large goodbye of caw and go. The world's a place of high and low, and all that's in between my here, his there. Well, it's a cascade made of star-stuffed legacies, invisible to proof, whose mineral and liquid names I do not know. Let's call it this morning's sweet swing low, the blind man's touch and go, that other sky-high thing we know, all of us, under great God's sun, feather-flanked by Mother Rain, named playful when we can, by the glide and glad of snow.